You're listening to Unity Talks with Alfred Farrow, only on LA Talk Radio. You're listening to the Ununited State of the World with Francis, Jay, and Monique, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Ununited State of the World. I'm Monique LeRae. I've got my co-host here, Francis Viggers from the UK, and I'm in Laguna Beach, California. How's it going? We're missing one. How's it going, Francis?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for asking. I will be your way in about 17 days.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be across the pond.
Bring your coat. Bring your coat. It's really cold. And your
I'm
umbrella.
going to. Oh, thanks for reminding me. Okay, so I will bring the checked baggage then.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't stop raining, unfortunately, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I like a little weather, in the fall. It's kind of cozy,
Yeah. Not too much, so.
Right.
It doesn't stop.
Not Seattle. Right, we have that.
No. Yeah.
It's funny how you take the sun for granted, but I guess what you don't have, you miss. So,
well, that's right. Yeah. I mean, every time there is a blue sky in the morning, when you get a bit of high pressure, a bit of clear blue sky, and you wake up, you just think, wow, if only it was like this all the time, and rush out and have a walk. But everywhere's muddy because it's been raining every other day. But that's how it is.
I can see that. But you guys, there's some culture there that I just really adore that you only get in that vibe. So, you guys are obsessive about tea and the umbrellas, and you guys are a little snarky, which I kind of enjoy. Like,
you don't find that in many places anymore. The Englishness is slowly being sucked out of England. I have noticed that.
Teeing up a topic.
There's only a few places that you can go to now where you kind of get a glimpse of what it was like in the old Empire days, all that sort of stuff. I remember, we were famous for men's clubs, the club. Men only clubs, where you could go in there, you're a members club, and you go in there and have lunch with your chums, smoke a cigar, and read the paper.
A bro, like not in a bad way, but a gentleman. See, you can't really say gentleman's club, and you can't really say bro.
An escape from the world, and then going a few years back, there was this massive thing about how they they would be made to accept women members and let women in. So I mean, even that's gone, so it's. I don't know. No escape, is there? Men used to go down to the pub, but that's kind of gone as well. You used to go down to the pub at lunchtime. It's just full of men drinking.
So let me ask you this, Francis.
That's gone,
let me ask you this. In this golden age of Londonness, Britishness, if you will, tell me the years that you recall that was the golden age. And then are you speaking about just not having a safe place to just kind of decompress as a man? And just have a male space.
I'm not sure whether you'd call it a golden age or not. I don't know really, but the golden age of the British Empire were before I was born, really. So it's only the few clubs that I've been to and restaurants and sort of tea rooms that emanate or reflect back to those sort of slow, sleepy, smoky sort of atmospheres of gentlemen's clubs and things like that, where you can hear the grandfather clock ticking and it's quiet everywhere, and you can just hear the rustling of newspapers, and you might see somebody stick their nose around the corner of a newspaper, smoking a bit of cigar smoke coming out back into the wing chair, and that sort of thing. That's pretty much all gone. I mean, you're not allowed to smoke inside anymore anyway, so that's gone. And,
well, you know what? I really appreciate you, expressing this. We're going to talk about a different topic today, but we'll spend some time here. This is important because I believe men need to have a spot where you guys can do those things. If you all
Well,
want to
yeah,
smoke
but you know,
and
that's
read a newspaper and talk, like women go
yeah.
shopping or go gossip. Like women, we need to do our thing at happy hour. But men need that too. We all need to recharge somewhere. And I don't believe in like
Well,
suffocating
it's in
one
our
another.
DNA, isn't it? It's in our genetics. Whether you like to accept it or not, it's there.
Yeah,
And the hunter gatherers, and it wasn't that long ago either. You know,
yeah,
if you look back throughout history, the men used to go off hunting, and they would leave all the women in the encampment, in the village, or in the cave. You know, right back to the very early days. And the men
yeah,
would go off. They would go off for, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks. You know, however long it took to catch enough food
yeah.
it then being worthwhile to take back. You know.
Got it.
Um,
So the gentleman's club is where you catch food now.
well, I mean, yeah.
Just kidding.
Well, I mean,
It's evolved.
yeah. I mean, that's why, you know, hand-eye coordination from the hunting over hundreds of thousands of years, you know, is generally better in men than it is in women. And that's why men can coordinate and find their way, you
Yeah.
know, on a map or whatever. Generally, I am generalizing now, but generally better than women. And there are plenty of things that women can do far better than men, you know, because
That's right. It's a
they've been doing
combination.
them for
Yeah.
generation after generation for
Yeah.
literally hundreds of thousands of years, you know.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think
you
there's
know,
anything wrong with that. You be good at what you
well,
do. He got very passionate about it. Do what you
yeah.
do. We do what we do, and we come together and with this great
Well, and you're a
team.
good, and you should be a team, an effective team,
That's right.
exactly. Not at each other's throats, and you should have. Everyone doesn't matter who they are is good at something. Honestly, it
I
doesn't
like
matter who
that.
you are. Everyone is good at something, and no one is always wrong. Okay, not at all. You know, as they
And
say, you know,
nobody's always right either.
absolutely, exactly that. That's the other face of the coin. No, I mean, yeah, sure. You know, there are people that kind of they seem to behave like a machine, and they're annoyingly right most of the time. But
Right.
even they, right, will get something wrong, and it could be something really fundamental, but something that really does affect their lives or their partner's lives. And they just don't see it. You know, they don't have that awareness at that moment in time for that issue. It's just not there, and you
It's
can't
just not
quite put
there.
your finger on why that is. But some
Yeah.
people see something that others don't, and why
And you know
is
what?
that?
I love that because you want to surround yourself with people that are smart, as smart as you or smarter, that have different experiences and that can see a different point of view. I think you stop growing when you're like, all right, I know all there is. I got it. Now, in some areas, you can have boundaries and go, this is what I believe. This is how I'm going to move. I'm open for a little bit of an adjustment. But, I think being curious and constantly asking for feedback from people that you trust and you trust their feedback is great. I think it's really great.
Well, yeah, but just because you trust somebody doesn't mean they're right. So at the end of the day, you've always got to use uh, your own judgment,
Yes, I think I mean
basically.
you trust them to tell you the truth and you trust that they're of sound judgment.
Yeah, but
But
you know
yeah.
that then brings up the big question of: do you trust your government, and should you act on
Whoa.
everything that your government tells you to do?
Wait, you
And
just jumped from us talking about okay.
well,
That's a
you know,
big
I
jump.
mean, well, yeah, well, yeah, we're talking about trust here now, though, aren't we? On the big issues in life, things that affect your health, things that affect your security, um, and yeah, I mean, that's a huge subject that I'm quite happy to talk about. So
Right. Yeah, no,
personally, I
listen,
don't
we're
trust
only a
them. I don't trust them at all, based on the way they're behaving over the last few years. So yeah,
wow. You know what? Leave it to Francis. I love the way you spin it into a like you make it all consuming because okay, that's a good we'll get there. We'll get there
do you
because
trust your government? Yeah, there's a good
right.
question for you.
Okay, that's the segue. Got it.
And if
We went from
so,
trusting men and women to be in their role, and then we
yeah.
went to
But if so,
government.
why? Why do you trust them? Why are you putting your health, if you like, in their hands? I
I
mean,
would counter
you're
that by
taking.
saying, why do you assume that I trust them?
Well, yeah, I mean, assumptions are dangerous, as they say. Shouldn't make them, right?
Yeah, but
You should
you
question
just said,
everything.
why
So,
do I trust? Oh, well, you're just saying to people, why do you trust your government? You're assuming that people do.
Yeah, exactly. You know, a lot of people dialed out of the whole health thing, and they just trusted what the government told them over the last few years. And now
Listen,
it's all beginning to
you and
catch up
I,
with a lot of people. So, you know.
well, you and I have something that we are not disclosing right now, but I have a little bit more context to what Francis is referring to. But Francis, you can correct me if I'm wrong or get it wrong. But you know, Francis has some I don't know the right term, but you have some resentment's a strong word, but you have there's a sour taste in your mouth about how COVID was handled in many different countries. Am I wrong by saying that? I
No,
mean,
not at all. No, not at all. No, I think
yeah,
that the fear, shame, and guilt that they used on people to coerce them effectively, you know,
yeah.
got their arm up behind their back. I mean, we were told here, protect Granny. You know, go and get your jabs to protect Granny, and nobody knew what was in the
Is
jabs.
that was that the ad? Go get your jab to
Yeah,
protect
yeah,
Granny.
that's it. That's it. Literally, honestly, I mean, that is
That's some guilt right there. That's a guilt ad right there.
yeah. It's like if
Get
you
your
don't want
jab
your
to protect Granny is
that's what they said.
genius.
That's what they said to
That
us.
is
That's
so
what they said
genius.
to
I
us.
would have probably got 3 jabs
Yeah.
for Granny.
How many grannies have you got? Yeah.
Well, not on the planet anymore, but yeah,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Well,
I'm
I can
just
tell you
saying.
now, my mother's 81 and she didn't get any jabs and she had COVID and she's fine. So,
Yeah, but you know what?
uh,
Here's the thing, right? The show's not about COVID, but you and I have had a lengthy conversation. I really do respect and appreciate your point of view because it balances me out, right? It balances me out and it offers another point of view of a lived true experience, right? So I trust that that's your family's experience, and I'm glad that it's your family's experience. On the other hand, I've had people run up to me in the London Heathrow Airport, or not run up to me, but I'm the last person getting back on a plane from London back to New York,
yeah.
and the flight attendant is a gentleman, and he's tall. He's real tall, and I'll never forget him. And he's just like, my daughter died at 23 of
Yeah.
COVID, and she
Yeah.
was otherwise healthy. You really
Yeah.
just the rhyme and reason of this thing was like so out of control
Yeah.
from everything. And I went, oh, this back. Everybody knows
Right.
the backstory.
Okay.
So I'm not
Okay.
saying I know everything because I do not. But
Right.
what I do know is the
Yeah.
common denominator of this thing is it's not the same. The thing that you can
But
rely
no
on is
outcome is the same across the
everybody's
board for everyone. It
right.
doesn't
And
matter
so
what it is. No outcome.
so with
Yeah.
math and science, for us to say, well, my family was good, which we love to hear it, but this family was not, right? So we
No,
can't
no.
take a
But
stroke
the
of
the
broadness.
average age of death in the UK from COVID was 82. So
But again, you told me,
sadly,
but you asked me, do
sadly,
you trust your government? So do you trust your government? Because you're pulling that from your government, right?
well, that's right. They pushed it on us, and even Boris Johnson, who was the prime minister at the time, has just held a long interview, and he said, "Yeah, COVID-19 more than likely escaped from a laboratory in Wuhan."
Was
Literally, I
what?
mean, COVID-19 escaped from a laboratory in Wuhan, more than likely.
Oh, that's
So
okay.
even he's coming out and saying that now, and yeah, he was the one saying, you must get your jab, like that. And at that
Listen,
point,
they say
I
that about
supported
the
that
flu
guy. I
shot.
voted for him. And at that point, when they're trying to force I mean, they're not holding you down, but it wasn't
I get
far
forced.
short of
I
that,
get
really, to be
forced all the
honest. So,
time. I get an email getting me forced to get dog shots. I get an email
yeah, I mean,
forcing me to get a flu shot every time I go get a sandwich or a bottle of water at a certain drugstore or a
yeah,
pharmacy.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
get
I
your
know,
flu shot.
yeah.
I haven't had a flu shot ever
Yeah, you
by
don't
my
need one.
choice
They're
as an
rubbish.
adult.
I know a chap, he used to get all the flu shots every year. Every year he got flu.
Yeah.
Because it mutates so fast. A friend of mine is a chemist, and she said to me when I heard about COVID-19 and it was a coronavirus, she said I knew there's nothing you could take that would stop you from getting it because it mutates
But
so quickly that why is there no cure for the common cold? It's because it mutates so quickly
so
that you're
and
always behind the ball. You're
most
never
viruses
in front
do.
of it. You're
Most
never in
viruses
front of it.
do. Yeah. And you're right. And I think, listen, I love your brain because you are always questioning what is being presented to you. And I think that you have to be that way to survive. You've got to
Well,
be
if
a
you,
critical
yeah, I
thinker
mean,
in
if you do,
all
yeah,
things.
if you don't
Yeah,
question anything else, question
everything.
everything about your
That's
health.
right.
Number
Well,
one,
everything in
your
general.
health, everything about what you eat and what you have put inside your body by somebody else. Question those things first, right? And then if you want to go on to the economy and, the state, the nation and politics, sure, like go there. But number one, look after
Yeah.
yourself. And number two, look after your family and make sure you know what you're eating, what you're drinking, and what if any medication that goes inside you, how it's going to affect you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
agree.
makes
Listen,
and
Francis,
makes
all of it
yeah.
is true.
But
I
that's got to
think
be
that,
number one, right? Number one is you, your body, and your family's bodies, your children's bodies. Brothers, sisters,
so
parents, that
no,
sort of thing. Yeah.
you're absolutely right. I think where we are, sorry, Jay's looking for us. I'm forwarding it to him again.
I'll look for the
Hopefully
link.
he'll
Yeah.
join us.
Yeah.
I'm the ringleader here. That's fine. We're gonna, you know, what is the remedy for all these suggestions, right? Because adulting's hardest enough. Now I respect you, gentlemen, because you're parents, right? I'm an auntie many times over by friends and by actual family, and so I think that that's my position as far as children goes in this world. But I love hearing it. But how do you decipher as a parent, auntie, caregiver, grandparent, parent? How do you decipher I'm going to let this go because all of a sudden, and I guess it did happen in the 70s here, but like, how do you decipher what you're going to allow? Because I know a lot of parents are meeting that line with politicians in schools. Like, where do you find the line of like, okay, let's get these vaccines? That must be a battle.
Okay, so during COVID, they shut the schools, and my daughter was at home for quite a few months. They didn't have the technology in the school to have face-to-face lessons like we're face-to-face now. They didn't have that technology in this day and age, 2020, 2021. They didn't have that technology in the school to be able to do face-to-face with the children. So they just set them homework. They had to do it on Google Classroom, I think it was called, and then they had to submit the work, and then it was marked. They had no interaction with any other students or with the teacher for months and months and months on end. And she got one telephone call over I don't know, 4, 5, 6 month period from the school. And the phone rang and I answered it. And this little voice said, oh, hello. This is so and so from the school. I'm just ringing to see if Sarah is okay. That was
This is
it.
just to
That
catch
was
everyone up because
it.
Jay just joined us. We've got off on the beaten path, but it's a good conversation, and Jay's smart enough to catch up. But
That was it. That was
Francis,
all. That was a
but
contact I
so
had from the school over months and months on end. And do you know what? I got bombarded with letters and with emails trying to get my daughter vaccinated. They
okay,
were
so
more
that's the
interested
answer
in
to the
that. They were
question.
more interested in that than her education or
All right, so that's
her
the answer to the question.
welfare.
Hold on, let's catch everybody up because the question was, we're taking this extra care with COVID. I think we should take care with everyone. And Francis said, yes, you must look after what you put in your body. It's your temple. We got it. So I didn't know if you had let her, but now you're telling me all this activity shows me that you did not let her back in because you did not do the shot. Had you ever done shots before? Have you ever vaccinated her for anything before?
Yeah. She had the standard vaccines because
And those standard
prior to
vaccines,
COVID, I just blindly trusted that what the government were doing via the NHS and via the NHS, the free health service here in the UK, that these
right?
standard shots, as you
Yeah.
call them, or injections here,
Yeah.
were just generally, well, yeah, you should have them. It's common sense, isn't it? But no, it's not common sense because we don't know what's in them. We don't know what it does to our children long term. We've just accepted the fact, you sort of bowed our head and done our cap to the powers that be and just let them stick it in our kids, And now, there's no way I would do it if I had any
Well,
more children.
You came at it
I'm
on
not going
let me
to.
get Jay to chime in here. You came out of it with a new understanding. Your eyes were open to, like, all these times I was a mummy, I was blindly believing, and you have enough reasons for the way that they've handled policy and the state to go, what the hell am I putting in my family? And I love that, because you're a critical
It's a
thinker.
what the hell moment, isn't it? Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
it's called a come to
It's a what
Jesus.
the hell
Whether or
moment.
not it's a come to Jesus, it's a come to Jesus moment,
Yeah.
or a Buddha, come to Buddha, or come to Muhammad, or whatever the hell. Right.
Yeah.
So let's welcome our other co-host, Jay Heckendorn. Jay, how's it going?
Hi, Jay.
Sorry about that, guys. I was backstage for a little bit, but Monique, thank you for resending the link. Okay, so I'm kind of coming in on the tail of this, and there's so many avenues to go. But Monique, you said that we kind of got off the beaten path, and so I don't want to keep going down the beaten path. So let's catch up. I've got so many comments regarding COVID and shots and the consequences that we've all suffered from that.
Yeah.
Especially,
Yeah.
I've been a big part of Boys and Girls Club in America, and the psychological and emotional consequences during that period that is still reeling were pretty great. So that's another aspect, and we did kind of follow it blind. But what was the question, Monique, that you started out with?
That's good to ask.
Let me ask it this way: what is the beaten path? And let's beat it some more. Yes.
Well, good. No, with Francis, you know who we got in Francis, right? He's a deep thinker. He's passionate, but he's also the palate cleanser. So we were just kikiing a little bit before you came on, and
the question was, do you trust your government, Jay?
Right, and then it went down to the COVID shot.
Why would we trust the government?
Yeah.
Good God, are you kidding? Give me one aspect that I want to trust it. I don't care what government.
Yeah.
Whether it's my government, Francis's government, I don't
Yeah.
give a shit.
I mean, do you know a lot about Francis's government to distrust it?
What is that?
They're all the same. It doesn't matter which side.
I mean, first you got to know.
They're all playing the same
I know
game.
Francis's government. Francis and we've been friends for 15 years. I know.
Okay, I'm friends with people in Prague, but I don't know their government. I mean.
Oh no. We look at the UK and US work hand in hand. So
they do, yeah.
They are not the only difference between the UK and the government and the United States government is the UK says, "Pardon me, don't you mind?" And the United States says, "You better." That's the only difference.
Oh God. Right. We're the bully cousin. Okay. All right. Let's get on track, guys. Thank you for starting this off, Francis. I think we do have to do a segment of what the hell is Francis upset about today? No, I'm just kidding. Or we could say,
how long have you got?
I know. We can give you 10 minutes. We can give you 10-minute beats every week, Francis. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Then I have to ask Mr. Okay. I want to know what's on Francis's mind today, because I think this is a healthy way discussion from different collectives is really beautiful, because you can understand where people are coming from, and I think it pulls down the tension and it diffuses the misunderstanding. And we're doing what folks are going to do on Thanksgiving and the respective adjacent holidays around the end of November, leading up to Christmas.
It depends how the election goes. That all depends how Thanksgiving is going to go.
Yeah.
Right. I don't
know if I'm going to be a pilgrim or if I'm going to go to the Boston Tea Party and maybe escape out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Maybe you might. Maybe you might be going back to wherever the fuck you came from.
I might go to the UK and say, "Hey, here's some tea."
Maybe you might be going back to Germany. We don't know. Interesting perspective, because I think that's true. I agree with Jay's point. I think a lot of people. We'll spend 2 more minutes. We'll wrap this up. I think Jay's perspective is like a lot of people, and for both sides, for the American party, because we aren't advanced enough to have more than 2 strong parties, like some people in the world, which I'm bitter about, but you can't tell. But I think the other flip side of that coin perhaps could be, I'm not going to let an election dictate my mood how I treat people and how I'm going to go about my day. Just like my candidate did not win the last time, I still got up, put my shoes on, cooked breakfast, walked my dog, and paid my bills, right? I was probably upset.
Did you tie your shoes or did you put on Velcro?
I don't know. If I have Velcro in here, come have an intervention in my.
I think it ends up as Velcro. Sarsos is doing them up, but you know.
Yeah, if I have Velcro, I have
one day we'll all be wearing Velcro shoes. Shuffling around, yeah.
I know.
All right, so are we going into voting rights now? Is that what
we are. Thank you for teeing it up, Mr. Heckendorn. Why don't we start about it, guys? Next week, we are going to speak about something that you guys have all been waiting for, which is the election. But we're going to be in Halloween gear, so do not take us too seriously, but take us seriously. But today, the lead-up topic is voting rights in the UK, in the US, around the world. Do they matter? And do we trust them? Mr. Heckendorn, why don't we go full screen on Jay? Jay, give us your opening thoughts on this.
Okay, opening thoughts. Monique, you had the pleasure of meeting with a friend of mine, Jennifer Vo, at a reunion, a week or two ago in Los Angeles, yeah?
Yep. Yes, I did.
I lost everybody there. Okay, we're back.
Yes, yes, I did. But you can't see me when we go full screen. So we'll go back to full screen and you can land your opening statement.
Here's where it is. So Jennifer works for United States Postal Service. She's pretty high up there. And she's been in depositions and congressional hearings, providing testimony specifically regarding some of the lapses that occurred in the voting, and that is simply in the small fragment of Postal Service. Now, voting rights. Well, let's ask the question: who should be allowed to vote? If you're incarcerated and you got free housing, you got free medical, you have free food, and you really aren't impacted. You're not paying necessarily tax. You're not out, trying to run a small business or a mid-sized business. So really, there's little impact. And clearly, if you're serving some time for a serious crime, well, you probably didn't make a really good decision, right? And in fact, you probably made a few bad decisions that got you there. If you're not a citizen of the country, well, it's not your country. Go back and go vote in your own country. Who cares? That's kind of how I feel about it. That's the nuts and bolts, but we can dive deeper into it. Now, Francis is going to say the same thing, but again, being from the UK, he's much more eloquent. And he's going to say, pardon me, and he'll continue on. But go ahead, Francis, your turn.
Yes, let's go full screen on Francis and get your take on voting rights. Do they matter? Do you trust them?
Well, I think, I think we have to get this one right. I think voting rights is, it's a question for today because we're seeing our respective countries flooded with illegal immigrants that are being basically invited to stay by the current sitting governments on both sides. And I think, they're just trying to secure more votes for their party by doing this. There's no upside to it. There's no positive to it other than the party that are implementing this policy hoping to get their votes in the future. And the chances are they will. So I was watching something about the states and about the swing states and about how certainly in the United States, huge numbers of illegal immigrants have been settled in those swing states to try and make them not swing states and possibly never again in the future. So, this is, it's a despicable plan, really. I mean, I just think it's awful. So, yeah, I think this is a massive question of the moment that's very relevant right now that might not have been relevant previously. I mean, in the UK now, I think 1% of the population are illegal immigrants. That is a figure that I've heard in the media. It's just totally out of control now. And so hence that question arises. So yeah, I think it's a very relevant question. Do I think they should be given the vote when, that's not really? No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think they should.
No, it's great. Thank you, gentlemen, for your opinions and your ads, because it's important. I'm obviously wearing my political hat because this is about voting, and I'm surprised that Jay's not wearing his Trump wig that needs to be styled by the gays because it's a mess.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
wait.
you gotta.
What was up with that hat? I just now saw your hat. But hang on, I was backstage.
Because you thought it was military, right? So you didn't see the message. You thought I was on your team, right?
I know better. But Francis actually brought something that I also heard in a report. And Francis, I heard it here in the U.S. And I took it with a grain of salt. But now that you brought it up, can you explain a little bit more from what you know? Because these are people from the United Kingdom that, based on the United States report that I heard, were brought in and kind of planted in some of the swing states here on the mainland. But it was a limited report that I got, so I don't have the full view that you do. Can you explain that a little bit more and why that's impactful?
Well, I mean, impactful.
No,
I mean,
And you got to do it in 3 minutes, Francis. Don't take me down.
Sure. So the impact will be that that swing state will never be a swing state again, because it's a bit like opening the flood doors and just let the water in. It won't be a swing state anymore. So this is a question of the Democrats are in power at the moment, and they're running the policy of the open border. They're dictating where all of these immigrants are going, where they're housed, and they're dropping them in swing states, is what I've heard. So, that is a plan. It has to be for the moment. And I think that's why, really, they shouldn't get the vote. And, how are you going to qualify somebody? Do they have to be born here? Do they have to be in resident as tax purposes for 10 years? Et cetera, et cetera. But there has to be something, in place to qualify somebody.
How about the way I condense it is a person must be vested. Okay, and I don't care how you measure the vesting, whether birthright is birthright, but if you don't live in the United States, why would you make the policies, right? So I think there's a blend, and obviously that can get very complicated. But if you bring it down to the core, it's got to be somebody that's vested and has a consequence to the vote. It's not just a matter of a simple vote. Every vote matters, and every vote or every election dictates the future policies and conditions that we live under. And therefore, if you're not vested in one way or the other, in a meaningful way, not a, this isn't a, this isn't Hollywood, where
it's not. I'm out of here. I'm blowing this joint. This isn't Hollywood. I thought we were in the media. We're not. I'm out of here. I gotta go.
If you don't have a vested interest, or if you have a vested interest that is against the law, right? You've got cartels. Well, they've got vested interests. So
you and these cartels, you're obsessed with cartels. You don't even have a goddamn border anyway. I do. You're so fucking obsessed. I should be more scared than you. You're just like, you eat, sleep, and breathe the cartel. I've never heard anyone so obsessed. Anyway,
well, it is an issue. It's a real issue. That's the problem, and it's
I don't
a pretty
see
nasty
it.
one. Yeah,
I live right here. I live right here. They are right over here. According to you, they're right at my door.
And no, you live in Laguna. That's different. But
don't be giving out my address.
I need to get you some new glasses. That's the problem. Your glasses, you got to get a new prescription.
It's true. My Democratic fog. Democratic fog.
And we update our glasses because we're older.
It's true. The Democrats have blurry vision.
Yeah.
No, the Democrats have very sharp vision. It may be misguided, but make no mistakes, the Democrats are not dumb. They're very calculated.
Thank you for saying that. Well, and thank you for adding what you had. I'm going to jump in here and sprinkle a little bit on your cupcakes here. What I will offer is, yes, I think we need to be looking at all the things. I'm not saying, as a Democrat, I'm not saying the border situation is perfect. I think there's some fucked up things happening. I think that we need to figure it out. When you're popular, you have security, you have a plan, you keep yourself safe. No offense, I'm not bragging on my country. I'm very proud of my country. I contribute to my country.
Yeah.
And you need to.
I've got a question for you, actually, Monique. Yeah. Do you lock your door at night?
I do, because
Do you lock your door at night?
I'm a single black female Democrat in Laguna.
Yeah, but why do you lock your door?
To answer your question, I'm a single black female Democrat in Laguna Beach, California, in Orange County, and I'm from LA. My dad taught me to lock my door since I'm a teenager. Yeah, I lock my door.
You know, the door to your country is wide open.
Guys, we can agree that some people feel that way, and I'm not here to discount that. I'm just telling you, I live an hour and a half away from the border, and I do not feel that way. I'm just saying that. So I don't know how far, but you're allowed to feel that way. That's fine. What I'd also like to talk about.
Practical fact. The fact is, that was just a good illustration. That's all. There was nothing about where you live, and that was it.
Well, I think that perhaps your adjacentness, if that's not a word, but how far you are from the said issue could lend a different perspective, perhaps.
Well, I've got another question. Actually. Sorry. What I mean, you're very proud to be a Democrat. I can tell. But what does it actually mean to you to be a Democrat?
Thank you for asking that.
What do you expect?
I'm proud to be a Democrat in this moment. But a lot of these shows, I tee it up with, I wish we were smart enough to have more than two choices, because we just were a ping pong game back and forth with policies fighting over strong arm and who got something passed for their people to get voted in. We're not really moving forward and growing. So in other countries in the world, as you know, because you're a world traveler also, there are more than two prominent parties that people can choose from, because people aren't just one thing. People aren't just two things. People are a lot of things. So to answer your question, I'm proud to be a Democrat right now because I'm a female, and that lens, before I open my mouth or anyone enjoys banter with me, hopefully, I leaned for that. They see what they see, and I realize how I show up in the world, and then how dare I also be opinionated, strong, and independent on top of that. So which party is going to align with how I move in the world? I have my own checking accounts, multiple, right? So I don't have a husband, right? Oh, there he goes. He came dressed for the occasion. The showdown. So that's the answer. I need certain rights to move in the world. I couldn't get a checking account 40 years ago without a husband. If I was
so being a female is kind of like the big takeaway from what you just said. But
no, the big takeaway is I'm treated like almost a full human being, which segues to getting back to the point. And I'll let you finish, Francis. I want to talk about, you talked about the swing states, but I want to push it further and talk about 3/5 compromise. So on top of being a female, I'm not a Caucasian female. And I'm proud to be who I am. And I know you're going to say you're playing the race card, but there's no such thing as a race card. You're just that. It is what it is. It's not like I pulled it out and go, I'm going to be black today. My point is, there is a perception when you walk in the room. They size you up just like they size you up. Why do you think I'm smart enough to bring certain people that look a certain way before they meet me? Because I know how the world works. I'm not naive. So the 3/5 compromise means, we're talking about the 1787 agreement over including slaves and in the state's population, which is also after that there was the electoral college, so there was a certain amount of delegates. There's a reason why a lot of Black and brown people migrated from the South and to Western states after the Civil War, because they, your vote isn't as strong in certain places, and you're not counted as a full human being. Like I said on the previous shows, I'm the second person born in my family with my full human rights that God, Buddha, or whoever gave me, right?
Yeah.
So you weren't even looked at as a full human. You can go ahead and forget it if I wasn't married. I wasn't even, it was 1/8 of a human being. So there's nobody's vote that's more passionate than the Black female's vote, in my opinion. I mean, everybody's passionate about their vote in this election, but folks that weren't even seen as full human beings that help contribute to the country, we're very passionate.
Okay,
so I'll set up there and let you respond.
On that point,
go on, Jay, go on.
Yeah, so Monique, at this day, even though I'm a white male, I didn't get a voice until I was 18. I know it's shocking. I'm actually darker than you, but still. Audience, we joke about that personally. Okay, so I'm just sharing a joke that Monique and I. But at the same token, we didn't have voting rights till 18. And why? Well, because there's a maturity level. There's a vesting. Now, voting to your point and underscoring what you're saying, I said earlier that the voting should be done by those that are vested in the country. They're the ones that are going to live under those conditions. They're vested. And so I agree with you, Monique. Man, this is the second time today. You better note this date down.
I'll tattoo it on my arm by my bird.
That's right. So, look at slaves should have always had a right to vote, and they never should have been considered less than human, 100% human. Okay.
Thank you for saying that. We need more people that look like you, that are darker than me, that you claim, to say that out loud and to express that in your what? In your actions.
Right, and it's the absolute truth. Now, but Monique, in this case, in today's time, we're talking about a different issue. Okay, your issue is no less valid by any means. It certainly is a valid issue. I get it.
No, I don't have any.
Now we've got a different where people are being allowed to pour in. Okay, and I can point out the terrible tragedy of what happened with the slavery, right? They were, as you mentioned to me the other day, they were brought here by force. Today, that's not the case with the crowd that Francis and I and you were talking about. They're not being brought here by force. They're certainly not being subjected to those subhuman treatments that happened years ago. Which is terrible. They're actually getting treated better than citizens of the United States. And yet they don't contribute to our taxation system. Many of them actually bring their crime and drama and the problems because, and I don't even blame them because that's all they know. If you grow up in Nicaragua or Guadalajara or any El Salvador, Venezuela, you name it.
And he's picking those countries just for everybody's understanding, not just, it's because of the bordering countries. We're not just targeting your country, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not calling any. I mean,
that's right. I wanted to translate your home. Yeah.
and so, but you grow up in an environment, and that's all you know. That is your way of that's what you know, and yet many of them clearly do not like the consequences of that culture, and that's why they come to the United States, right?
Yeah.
So, on the same token, that doesn't necessarily give you the right to vote. There's got to be, and I don't have the magic formula. Got to.
So,
there's got to be a way to vet.
Yeah,
you got to vet them out before they come in, and then
sorry to cut you off, because just for the sake of time, can you round it out in 30 seconds?
My connection's great, but I'm not.
All right. So Jay, you're giving a good additive. Let me just cleanse the palate here by saying, Francis, myself, Jay, we all can agree that we do not want people who don't live here and don't contribute and aren't vested one way or another, whether they have a child or a cat, whether they pay taxes on a food service job or they're an entrepreneur. We can all agree we don't want people coming into anybody's country illegally and doing the things that he's saying. So we can agree on that. So that shouldn't really come up again, because most people who pay taxes, who are creating jobs, who are entrepreneurs here, who care about locking their doors or not locking their doors, to Francis's point, we agree on that. I'm not paying taxes so you don't do anything for me. I mean, that's a no-brainer. My point here now is we're talking about voting for people who have not had a say, and we're going to wrap it because we're getting close to the time here. Francis, are you in the comments with Sam? How much more time do we have, Sam? I can't see. While Francis checks that, please follow us on Instagram and Twitter X, and it's at the Ununited State of the World podcast. Francis, Monique, and Jay. Francis, do we have a couple more minutes for you to round this out?
We're at 46 minutes at the moment.
Okay, yeah, but I think sometimes my clock is off, so I'll shut up and give Francis 2 more minutes, Sam. Okay. Okay, Francis, take us home on this subject.
So you were talking about being a woman. Obviously, we've had a female prime minister here, probably the most famous female prime minister ever. Probably always will be.
Her in Australia. Yep.
We've had a queen, a sitting queen. I think she's probably broken all the records. Sadly she passed away. But the country adored her, loved her. She was fantastic. One of the best monarchs ever, really, I think. We've had very powerful women here in this country throughout history. Back to Queen Boadicea, who fought the Romans. She was a warrior queen, and women were empowered. They haven't been put down here in this country throughout history. Women have always been empowered. They fight alongside the men. They hold their own.
I admire that about you guys. We don't have a.
Yeah. We're not like other parts of the world where the women are completely subservient. They literally, seen and not heard, and they walk behind their partners. It's never been like that here, really, ever. So the whole female thing. We don't even think about it. It's not an issue,
Yeah, and you know what? You guys really, but it starts from the top, right? It starts from the head of the house, the matriarch, the patriarchs, and they bless each other and they support each other. I love a lot of things about the British aristocracy, but there's some things that I don't, for obvious reasons, but there's some beautiful things that have come from it as well. And I will say, I do love how you guys adore and you respect your people in power. They also move aside very quickly and they respect the people's voice.
Yeah.
What a refreshing idea.
Well, yeah. I mean, on the slavery issue, I think we were one of the first countries to abolish slavery, and then we spent hundreds of years fighting slaving on the seas. The British Navy would try and intercept and stop slave boats effectively.
Well, by the way, it's not a personal attack. I'll be in London in 2 weeks, and my point is there's some beautiful things about it, but we have to just call a spade a spade. And whenever I was going to many countries around the world, the Queen's face is on that brown country's money. And that is colonialism. And that's okay, but it's not okay. And it's okay to say there were some positives that came out of it, but we just have to call a thing a thing. And the Willie Lynch situation and all the stuff that's happening here, there's cause and effect for everything, for generations.
Well, I didn't think Queen Victoria would ever think that we'd have an Indian prime minister, but we did. In fact, we had an Indian running Britain. So I think the whole thing has gone full circle. I think it's gone full circle. So
so let's leave it off on a positive note. You're right. We got to leave it on a positive note there, Francis. And point taken. There's been a lot of beautiful people out of your country. This is not a dig because I'm not going to throw glass. I'm not going to throw stones in a glass house because we have a lot of glass. So yes, there are some beautiful positive attributes from your country, and for people like you that give a damn to take an hour from your family and be with us every week and give us your perspective and lend that. So thank you for doing that. We're going to continue to do this, everybody. We got to go. Next week, we're going to talk Francis into wearing a Halloween costume, and you already know what Jay's going to be. I am not going to dress as Kamala. I'm going to dress as something else. But we will see you right back here next week, and then it's the voting debate, presidential debate. The ununited state of the world. Be well, be kind, be good to each other. Bye, Francis. Adore you.
Bye.
You're listening to The Ununited State of the World with Francis, Jay, and Monique, only on LA Talk Radio.